The monster swung its blade downward, this time targeting Noir. Vlad intercepted the attack instantly, refusing to let it proceed. Blood sprayed from the monster as Vlad continued his assault, knocking it flying backwards. The tremendous force shattered massive trees, sending dust and debris swirling everywhere. Through the haze, Vlad remained standing tall. The monster slowly crawled back to its feet, its body severely damaged. Vlad sensed that their strategy was working. Realizing that Noir's attacks were finally breaking through, he shouted for another assault and surged forward to deliver what he intended to be the finishing blow. The monster gasped for breath as it forced itself upright, leaning against a tree. Surprised by its persistence, Vlad ordered Noir to stop. The monster struggled to support its heavy body, its hand moving sluggishly before it suddenly lunged toward both of them. Vlad questioned whether it was trying to grab them because it could no longer attack properly. He acknowledged that he had known it would not be easy to deal with such a foe, but he had not expected it to be this intelligent. He realized that he understood Noir was the only real threat. Worse still, if they charged in recklessly, the origin of the spirit within Noir could be caught in the crossfire. Faced with this dilemma, Vlad hesitated, torn over whether they should charge forward or hold back. Suddenly, Vlad sensed that something was different. When he turned around, he realized that the mole had somehow climbed onto his sword without him noticing. Vlad reacted in a cold tone, wondering how it had managed to get there and when it had arrived, then warned it that the situation was dangerous and told it to hide inside a hole. At that moment, the mole clung tightly to the blade and began channeling spiritual energy into it. Vlad was taken back by the sight unfolding before his eyes. In his thoughts, he realized that the elf's amber was resonating, and he sensed that something extraordinary was happening. The radiant light terrified the monster, causing it to turn around and stare at the ancient tree behind it, which was emitting a gentle yet brilliant golden glow. Vlad raised his sword, and through these phenomena, he came to the realization that this was the spirit's blessing. Filled with confidence, he believed that with this power, he would be able to cut the creature down. After finishing its task, the mole quickly slipped inside Vlad's clothes to hide. It poked its head out and pointed forward. Amused, Vlad curled his lips into a grin, indicating that he understood and declaring that they should move out together with Noir. With that, they charged into battle against the monster. The creature let out a ferocious roar while a resolute light flashed in Vlad's eyes. This caused the monster to freeze for a brief moment. Vlad brought his sword down in a single strike and the monster screamed in agony. Noir lunged forward and Vlad, riding on its back, raised his sword high. The monster stared in horror, its mouth wide open. The scene then shifted to another location where a gloomy and chilling atmosphere permeated the surroundings. A candle suddenly went out. Lamashtu sat silently on her throne, deep in thought. In a cold voice she stated that the light of Dreki had gone out and ordered that it be confirmed. The man kneeling below respectfully acknowledged her command. Inwardly, Lamashtu reflected that only a soul that had surpassed its limits could break her curse. She found it puzzling, however, since such a remote and insignificant domain should not have anyone of that level. Leaving her to wonder who it could be, the scene returned to the forest near the village. The missing girl was hiding behind a large tree. She wiped away her tears and questioned whether this was truly the place, noting that it was supposedly indicated as such, and expressing surprise that communication with something like that was now possible. Suddenly, a voice echoed harshly, telling her to be quiet and follow, reminding her that it was the one who had found her crying uncontrollably in the forest. She immediately protested in her thoughts, insisting that she had not been bawling back then. Peeking out cautiously, the girl noticed figures approaching and realized that the villagers seemed to have come looking for her. Her voice trembled as she almost called out, but she stopped herself midway. She reconsidered, worrying that she did not recognize their voices and that they might be bandits rather than villagers. She also feared that the monster could still be nearby. As the unfamiliar footsteps drew closer, she covered her mouth tightly in fear. Vlad suddenly leaned in and announced that he had found her. Startled, the girl screamed, causing Vlad's group to stare in confusion. After calming herself, the girl took a closer look at Vlad and realized that he was the one who had saved her before. Meanwhile, the mole turned around and rummaged through something before handing her a handful of fresh, ripe raspberries. The girl stared at them in disbelief, tears welling up in her eyes as she was deeply moved. Vlad gently told her that they should take her back home. At that, the girl ran toward him and hugged him tightly. A narration followed, stating that anyone who possessed something that shone had to know how to protect it. Those who failed were left with nothing but miserable ruin, and in order to survive they were forced to begin a never-ending wandering journey. In another scene, a young man stepped forward and remarked that the fire there had not yet gone out. An old man replied that someone needed to see it through to the very end. Relieved, the young man expressed that he had not arrived too late and stated that he had come to place a commission. The old man reacted with surprise, questioning whether it had to be done right now. The young man then produced a pouch of silver, leaving the old man stunned. The young man explained that the metal inside was one that only the eternal flame could temper. Addressing the master of the last furnace, he earnestly implored him to forge it. The old man asked in disbelief what exactly he was supposed to forge. The young man pulled down his hood and declared loudly that he wanted a dragon-slaying sword, proclaiming that he would slay the prime dragon of defection. The old man stared at him in shock, taking in the sight of the young man's sharp eyes and blazing red hair. With unwavering conviction, the young man declared that he would stay and defeat the prime dragon of dear affection. The scene returned to reality. Vlad sat quietly, gazing at the still surface of the lake. Goth suddenly called out in surprise, asking why the captain was there, why he was awake so early, and what he was doing in that place. Vlad replied that he had slept terribly. Shivering from the cold, Goth remarked that no one could have expected them to encounter such a sinister monster in the central region. He recalled Vlad's words and asked if it was true that the monster's corpse had vanished like smoke. Lost in thought, Vlad reflected that it had left no trace. He concluded that it had clearly been a deliberate cleanup with an obvious intent, and there was no doubt it was connected to them. He then stated that they needed to report the matter to Sir Joseph. Goth objected, pointing out that there were no mages nearby and asking whether they should send a courier instead. Vlad firmly responded that couriers would not work as it was winter. Travel was difficult, and it would take far too long. He then asked which city east of their current location might have a mage. After some consideration, Goth suggested that if they were talking about the east, it would most likely be Tanabo in Vitskaya County. Satisfied, Vlad agreed and decided that it would be their next destination. He instructed Goth to prepare everything so they could leave at first light the next morning. Goth raised his hand to signal his understanding, then departed. Left alone, Vlad pondered quietly. He was certain that he had dreamed of something, yet he could not remember it at all, as if it were a mirage. He tried to recall fragments of the dream, remembering words about slaying the prime dragon of perfection. Slaying a dragon felt strangely familiar to him, and he believed it might have been a fragment of memory left behind by that voice. Closing his eyes tightly, Vlad calmed his mind and immersed himself in his inner world, sensing that he was still connected to him and expressing a desire to meet again in a deeper world. Holding the sword imbued with immense power, he silently vowed that someday, without fail, it would happen. The next morning, everyone gathered to see them off. Dalmatia spoke up, asking why Vlad was leaving instead of waiting for the weather to improve. He questioned whether there was some urgent reason for the haste and wondered if their hospitality had been insufficient. Vlad politely declined, addressing Dalmatia as Baron and explaining that he had done what he came to do and that it was simply time for him to leave. Dalmatia, harboring sly thoughts, reflected that he had hoped to squeeze a bit more value out of Vlad before letting him go, and lamented how many gold coins the man's silver tongue had already drawn from him. Vlad quietly observed his expression and reminded him not to forget what he had said the previous day. With no other choice, Dalmatia agreed, stating that he would take the words to heart. He promised that from then on he would no longer burn the forest to expand the barley fields, nor would he cut down trees carelessly. Vlad added that from time to time it would not hurt to offer small tributes to the forest. He explained that the previous night he had felt that being's will flowing through the woods, and that the offering was a tribute to God who had blessed his victory. Dalmatia gazed at the gold coin before him. Feeling heavy in his heart, he questioned internally how this act could be seen not as idolatry towards spirits, but as a prayer to God, and marveled at how such a barbaric northern knight could possess such nobility. Placing a hand over his chest, Dalmatia solemnly expressed his deepest gratitude for Vlad's devotion and consideration, and assured him that he would remember their conversation from the previous night. Vlad returned the bow and stated that even from afar, he would continue to pray for the prosperity of Dobrkiti. Vlad then departed. Before leaving, he looked back at the village one last time, his gaze settling on the banner at its highest point, the flag bearing the symbol of a green tree radiating the power of a blessing. In his heart, Vlad entrusted it with a quiet farewell, wishing it well. He reflected that what spirits needed to live was presence, the memory of someone who thought of them. Feelings were what allowed spirits to exist upon the land. He believed that the girl's feelings preserved within the wild strawberries had been truly warm, and that she no longer needed to be forgotten. On that day, a single bright yellow star had returned to the forest of Dobrkiti. The scene shifted to another land. Rows of people in military uniforms marched in perfect formation. Within a grand palace stood the silhouette of a man. Joseph asked whether they had discovered who the individual was. The man reported that he was said to be the biological son of Duke Dracula, making him the half-brother of the dragon-killing knights as captain. Joseph pondered silently, realizing that if he was the son of the Duke of Dragon Blood and the half-brother of Mia Dracula, then it could only mean one thing. He was Radu Dracula. The dragon banner fluttered in the white snow. Hooves clattered against the road as a group of warriors on war horses rode into the city. And that man was none other than Radu Dracula. Radu Dracula was introduced as a pivotal member of the Dragon Killer Knights, alongside Mircea Dracula.